Hi, Dr. Diehl, and welcome to the Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Good to be here with you.
Great. So, Dr. Diehl, we're living in a time in human history where more people are overweight or obese than ever before. What is the reason?
It's very interesting. We have seen the obesity rate suddenly appear 1985. 8% of the American adults are obese. 10 years later, 18%. 10 years later, 28%. And now
Wow.
it's over 30% of the adults in America are obese. How did this happen? Why?
That's why I'm asking you.
And one of the reasons is that the calorie input, the calories that people consume, has gone from 2,000 around 1975 to now approaching over 2,500. So we have added 500 calories every day in our lives, and that is one of the big factors why we have such an epidemic. Now, I should tell you that there are probably several reasons. That is that in 1975, 1980, we had the onset, the beginning of a food revolution in America. What happened then was that we shifted from foods to industrialized products. We shifted from slow foods to fast foods. We shifted from eating at home to eating out. We shifted from potatoes to Pringles. We shifted from corn to Doritos. We shifted from water to soft drinks. We shifted from beans to burgers. We shifted from oats to Oreos. Do you see, we have seen this dramatic shift from foods to industrialized products. At the same time, we began to realize that the emphasis now was also on animal products. And while animal products usually had a relatively moderate amount of fat, we now put animals into feedlots. We really fatten them up to get juicier steaks. And with that, you also now could create meat faster and heavier. And that's exactly what we did. So meat is very high in fat, high in calories. When you think about it, the sirloin steak is about 70% of the calories is fat. When you look at cheeses, that's about 70% of the calories fat. When you look at sausages, that's about 80% of a sausage is fat. So when you have these kind of calories coming all together, you can see why it was easy to increase the calorie load by 500 calories a day.
Wow. So those 500 calories weren't coming from things like fruits and vegetables or grains
No,
or beans. They were coming from processed foods and
correct.
animal products.
Great. At the same time, the farm products also began to change dramatically. We would now process them, we refined them, we concentrated them, we sugared them, we salted them, we chemically engineered them to produce taste sensations, rich in calories and low in nutrients. And so now you have, in addition to this, advertising and marketing that create a demand that produces now big profits and big bodies.
Wow.
That's what happened. And what do you think did this food processing do? It added calories and chemicals, and it subtracted nutrition and fiber. When you think about this, almost 50% of our calories that we eat in America today come from empty calories. Empty calories meaning emptied of nutritional value, emptied of fiber. These are stripped down foods. They're no longer foods, they're industrial products. And so when you see this, you begin to understand why it was possible to actually consume 30 teaspoons of sugar per person per day in this country. Again, I give an example. You have a large milkshake, that's 2,000 calories. And people take this as a snack. When you ask them at the end of the day, what did you eat today? They sort of conveniently forget those snacks. Oh, they said snacks to count too. And I tell them, I said, the larger the snacks, the larger the slacks. It happens all the
Absolutely.
time. About 30, 40, 50% of the American calories come from snack foods. These are
Wow.
not nutritionally balanced foods, right?
Absolutely. And like that milkshake is often part of a meal that includes a Big Mac and French fries too. You have a great saying about McDonald's. Will you share it?
Oh, are you thinking about the more often you go to McDonald's?
Yeah, the golden arches.
the golden arches, the faster you get to the
Pearly gates.
big. You got that one.
I
You,
love that.
I didn't charge you some
The-
royalties for that.
Whenever I use it, I say my good friend Dr. Hans Diehl always says that the more you eat at the golden arches, the sooner you reach the pearly gates. And I say to people that if you want $1 million figure, you're not going to get it eating off the dollar menu.
That's
Yeah.
good. Or
Yep.
maybe I can use that. We can do an exchange here. Oh, so coming back. So you see, almost 50% of the calories we eat in America are emptied largely of nutritional value. These are snack foods. These are high in fats, they're high in sugar, and then you have alcohol as well. And in addition to this, you look at the overall diet in America, 50%, looking at differently now, 50% of the calories comes from processed foods, 35% comes from animal products by and large. And here's the point. Only 14% of our calories comes from foods as grown, the way food has been presented to us by nature. So these are the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the legumes. These are foods as grown. They represent today a minority role of only 14%.
That's
So you
crazy.
can see why we are overfed and undernourished.
Absolutely. So give more examples of the foods that we're eating now that are causing this obesity epidemic that we weren't eating 40, 50, 100 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Well, take, for instance, some whole grain products, right? Whole grains. They're rich in fiber. They expand in the stomach. They fill us up. They create a satiety, and they cost very little. But when you refine these whole grains, what happens? Now you buy them as pre-sweetened cereals. They crumble quickly. They do not fill the stomach, and there's really nothing there to it, and you really don't feel full. At the same time, they cost you, listen to this, they cost you pound per pound of grains, 8 to 10 times more than the original food. So this is a classic example, you see. And so what are the reasons for the obesity epidemic today? Reason number one, we have shifted from whole foods, from foods as they come in nature, to industrialized products where the nutrients are stripped and the calories are added.
That's incredible. And, even somebody that's following a plant-based diet, as myself for over 41 years, when I became vegan in 1977, there were no vegan processed foods.
Yes.
There was not even soy milk in a box. And today you could have everything you want in a vegan analog, but it doesn't mean it's healthy, because if it comes from a can, a box, a bottle, or a bag, it's probably not that good for you.
Yes. So reason number one, we shifted from foods to industrialized products. Reason number two, advertising and marketing. It's very interesting. The least nutritious products have the largest advertising budget. And that's sugar, and that's salt, and that's fat. And they're widely advertised. Enormous resources have been invested in marketing and in advertising to sell the American public on these convenient foods. They're taste sensations. Yes, they are, as people are known to love. But really, they're no longer helping us to maintain sensible dietary habits. As a matter of fact, this advertising and marketing has totally eroded our sensible dietary habits. Just think about this. You have you have these ads on television, right? You know what happens when an ad comes on every 5-10 minutes? What happens? Millions of feet begin to shuffle. They leave their comfortable sofa seat, and they usually go downstairs or upstairs. They go to the kitchen, and they open a magical door to a refrigerator. What comes out? Carrot sticks, celery sticks. No. See, and that's why somebody said the American ad time, the moment the commercial comes on, the commercial is the pause that refreshes.
That's hilarious.
It is.
Yep.
People think they are not aware of it. And when you ask them at the end of the day, what did you have to eat? They don't remember those kind of things, because this is where the calories are. They come in small packages, but they're charged up with lots of calories. So now, advertising and marketing. We could take a look at, for instance, McDonald's or some of these large companies. McDonald's spends on the average $1 billion in advertisement. The National Cancer Institute spends a measly $1 million to tell people you should eat more fruits and vegetables. Guess who wins out?
Yeah.
And the food is
McDonald's.
always available. The food is convenient, and it tastes good. And so, I mean, and people seem to be unaware that when it comes to consuming fats, you have the most concentrated source of calories of any macronutrients. For instance, if you take 1 gram of fat, it's 9 calories. If you take 1 gram of starch, it's 4 calories. So if you want to lose weight, eat more starch.
Right.
Don't use it as a refined starch, but rather, like you always talk about, use it in an unprocessed manner. Whole grains,
Absolutely.
brown rice, quinoa, these kind of things, barley. So we have now an incredible, powerful commercial industry that uses very effectively advertising to change the habits of American people. And then on top of this, you have beautiful magazines. You have beautiful magazines that come out every week. You have beautiful people on the front cover. Those pencil-like models. So you think, wow, I should look like this. And then you open the cover, and then you have recipes. You have recipes for romantic moments and coronaries. You see, there's this dichotomy, and people become very, very confused. And people say, well, Americans are no longer, they have lost their knowledge of nutrition. Well, that's partly true. But, it comes to a large extent through the confusion that is existing in the marketplace. Yeah.
Excuse me. I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right, Dr. Diehl. The public is confused because magazines like Time Magazine will put coffee with butter on the cover and say, butter is back. And we have best-selling books that are telling us to shun starch and to eat fat to get thin. So the public is confused.
Yes. So reason number one, shifting from food to industrialized products. Reason number two, advertising and marketing. This is very, very powerful because through the marketing and advertising efforts, these foods are highly visible. They're very seductive, and they're habit forming. They're actually, some people say, they're probably addictive.
I agree, especially the sugar, fat, and salt.
Yes, yes. So there we are. Reason number one, shifting from food to products. Reason number two, advertising and marketing.
Well, you talked about habituation and addictions. Michael Moss wrote a book that I know you're very familiar with called Fat, Sugar, and Salt, or Sugar, Fat, and Salt, How the Food Giants Hooked Us. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that plays a role in Americans becoming more and more overweight and obese?
Yeah, that's really a fascinating book. I mean, everybody should read this book. Michael Moss interviewed executives from these processed food companies who had retired. And once people retire, they sort of begin to talk. Maybe it's sort of a recompense, making up for what has happened before. But they talk, and he recorded them very, very carefully. This is a meticulously researched book that shows how a processed food industry is slowly poisoning an unwitting population, because people don't really realize that there are dangers attached to these highly processed foods, low in nutritional value, high in calories. So Michael Moss then shows us how the food giants hooked us, how they learned through research how to put the right amount of sugar, the right amount of salt, and the right amount of fat into the products to cause a habituation, if not an addictive pattern. And guess what? Many of these processed food companies were purchased by Philip Morris, which is the tobacco giant. And here's my question: Do you think that Philip Morris has some idea of how to habituate people? Do you think they have some idea how to cause addiction patterns in people? And so there you go.
Well, especially because so many people finally learned that smoking caused cancer. And so if they have less smokers, they've got to find a way to get customers.
Well, they're diversifying. They're very, very smart. They're doing it right at our expense.
Wow.
What really troubles me is that in the process, with all these processed foods, we actually have become a country of grazers. We go from patch to patch all day long. We don't have breakfast anymore. So then our first thing is at night, 10 o'clock, we have our coffee and donut. And then at 12:30, we have our hamburger. And then we have another few cookies or something in the afternoon. And we come home at 6, 7 o'clock, and you have a big meal. And then we have another meal at 10 o'clock at night as we watch the evening shows. There's no secret why we are struggling with obesity in this country.
Aren't you one of the people that often recommends breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince,
Hmm.
and dinner like a pauper?
That's a great idea. Yeah, I think it's a very, very good idea. If you want to lighten up your food intake, do it maybe at night so you sleep better and things are going to go in much, much better for you. So let me just summarize those 3 points that we made so far, right? What you asked me, what are the reasons for the obesity epidemic?
Epidemic, yeah.
Number one, we talked about food turns into food products, right? Industrialized products. Number two, we talked about advertising and marketing, big money, making foods available and seducing us, making it attractive. And number three, we just mentioned, we talked about habituation or addiction. I mean, I sometimes ask people, can you just eat one Pringle?
No.
I ask
No.
people, can you eat just one M&M? Can you just eat one Oreo? Why not? Because the amount of fat, sugar, and salt sets up a kind of what shall I say, a hijacking of brain chemistry, which causes the pleasure center of the brain to get a hit. When that hit hits, you're a goner. Because you got to have that second M&M. You got to have that second Pringle. You got to have that second, whatever it is. You cannot resist. That's why our people, if you really want to be successful, be careful what you put into your cart, into those trolleys when you go shopping, because what you put into that trolley, what you put into these, these what do you call these? These
Shopping cart?
Yeah. What you put in there, you bring home. What you bring home, you eat.
Absolutely. I've been saying for years, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And if you want to stop
That's
eating
good.
these foods, don't
That's
bring them in
another
the
one.
house.
That's good. If it's in your
And
house, it's in your mouth.
absolutely. And there's really no exceptions to that. And also, if people would just stop watching so much TV, they wouldn't be exposed to so much of this advertising. And, for some people nowadays, it's so easy. You don't even have to leave your house to go shopping. You can get your healthy groceries delivered, so you don't have to be exposed to all that hyper palatable crap that they are trying to sell us as food in the stores. But you're so right. You've always said, Dr. Diehl, eat food as grown, eat food from a plant, not food manufactured in a plant. And that it sounds so simple, but I guess for a lot of people, it's not always easy. So what are some of the reasons that people eat these foods in particular?
Well, yeah. Why do people eat? Why do they do this? Well, I'm sure there are many, many reasons. I mean, you eat on cue, right? It's 12 o'clock, it's time to eat, right? It's 6 o'clock at night, it's time to eat for some people. So we eat on cue. We eat because of habits. We eat because of hunger, sometimes. We eat out of, it's a social situation, right? You come to a home, you're invited, you sit down, and what do you have? You always have the nice kind of things that people look for, right? You come to a doctor's office. What do you look for? What do you see there? There's a bowl there with cookies and candies and everything else, right? I mean, they don't offer anything else. I mean, it's just like that. It's a social kind of a situation. It's a culture. Then, of course, you can also talk about habit patterns that are established in babyhood, in childhood. I mean, I remember my mother used to tell me if I didn't finish my plate, Hans, finish that plate. If you don't, in that time it was all the children in Ethiopia will be dying.
Oh my.
I didn't want that to happen. So I finished my plate. Then you're 30, 40 years of age and you realize that didn't really make sense, but it's encrypted, right? It's up there. And you're in the restaurant and you're just about finishing up. You just can't take it all in. And you figure, well, should I get a doggy bag? Should I take it home? And then the tape kicks in. Finish your food, finish your food. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
So habit patterns, tapes that are running in our minds. There are other things that we could talk about, and that is, why do people eat? Emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions?
Yep.
I mean, if my favorite football team wins, you're going to go home and you celebrate and you have carrot sticks and celery sticks, right? No, you don't. And if your team loses, what do? You drown your disappointment and you eat and you eat and you eat. So boredom, anxiety, depression, stress, all of these are emotions where food comes in like sort of a savior. It calms everything down. You feel good. You're okay. You're at peace with the world, right? That's the way it is. I remember that one woman, she came to me one time in one of our lectures, and she said, I am absolutely angry at my husband. He's a dentist. Right now, here I'm in Minneapolis. It's wintertime. It's cold. It's freezing. And he is in Hawaii. Why didn't he take me along? And she said, I was so angry as I moved towards the bedroom. It was late at night, 10:30 at night. I stood there in front of the mirror, and for some reason, I just let it all hang out. It was such a shocking picture. I saw the naked truth. I got so angry. I got so angry at myself. And then I noticed I turned the lights off. I couldn't bear the sight anymore. And then I went downstairs to the kitchen, to the refrigerator, and something came out that was sweet, cool, and I put everything on that ice cream that I could find. And then I enjoyed myself. I punished him for leaving me at home. See? And I went to bed. I felt pretty good, she said. The next morning, she woke up and she kicked herself because she had broken her code of honor just after one day. And she had actually planned to surprising him with a weight loss of 3-4 pounds when he came back after being in Hawaii for a couple of weeks. You see? This is what happens. Foods are pacifiers. And we have to be really aware of these special moments, these weak moments. We need to do something about it that's different than feeding ourselves.
They're very seductive. I would have said that she probably shouldn't have the ice cream in the house in the first place.
Yes, that's right.
But like you mentioned, it's everywhere. It's like, you mentioned the doctor's office, and I know some people might be thinking, what are you talking about? But it's true. I just went to the dentist the other day, and the dentist had candy. And I'm like, why? I don't understand. You're a dentist. You tell us not to eat sugar, and then you have a candy dish, and you went like this, well, the office manager bought it. But it's crazy. You can't go anywhere. You can't go to the hardware store, the pet store. Everywhere you go, there's these junk foods.
And I learned the other day that there are sometimes people that are using food to gain weight to protect themselves. Now, that really didn't make sense to me, but then I learned about ACE scores, ACE, adverse child events or experiences. And I learned that quite often, in particular when it comes to women, children, young ladies, when they're being abused, when they're particularly sexually abused, that stays with them. The trust was broken. They now find themselves vulnerable. As they try to now protect themselves from being assaulted again, guess what they do? They put the weight on, and now they're safe. It's a kind of an interesting idea, isn't it? That many times obesity becomes somewhat of a protective mechanism. So there are many, many reasons why people eat. We probably could spend days on this to discuss that. But these are just some of the aspects: emotions, good emotions, bad emotions, they all fit in there.
How are certain foods filling and other foods just cause us to overeat? Like there's a mechanism, right, in our stomachs and our brain. Can you talk a little bit about how certain foods are really filling and it's very difficult to overeat on them, and other foods much less so?
The magic here is fiber. Fiber means roughage. When you have food that has very little roughage, that means you have a lot of calories compacted and compounded in a consonant manner. It doesn't have any fiber, so it doesn't really fill the inside of your stomach. So you have to eat more and more and more until you're really full. Now, this is what happens once the stomach is filled. There are small, sensitive receptors on the inside lining of the stomach being touched by the food itself, by the fiber. It sends a message to the brain and to the appetite and says, hey, I'm full, no more. And you're fine. Your brain is shutting down. You're no longer longing for food. In contrast to this, again, when you have these highly refined foods, you have to take many, 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 many calories in order to fill this stomach before you finally get that signal, I'm full. So that's a very, very good point too.
Yeah. Well, that's why calorie density really is a thread that almost every speaker has mentioned, because it allows you to feel full on fewer calories. And so lose weight if you need to and maintain your weight loss. So, Dr. Diehl, what about genetics? So many people say, well, it's not my fault. I'm overweight or obese. My mother, my father, my grandfather, my brothers and sisters. What role does genetics really play in the obesity epidemic that we're currently experiencing?
Well, let me tell you a story, because maybe that's going to be memorable. I was giving a lecture, had some 300 people there, and on overweight, obesity. And this one woman, she was absolutely feisty. She was brazen. She was brassy. She was saucy. She said, sir, I object. This is a genetic problem. My grandfather was, my grandmother was, my father was, my mother was. I am obese. My husband is obese. There's nothing you can do. It is the genes. You cannot dispute that. And she was upset. Well, I'm kind of a nice person. I said, would you like me to maybe speak to you about this later privately? No, you tell me right now. I mean, she wanted to really justify herself. So I said, okay. I said, tell me, your grandmother, your grandfather, your father, your mother, they're all obese. Your children, obese, yes. It's genetics, it's passed on. And I said, could I ask you a personal question? Be my guest. Do you happen to have a dog? A dog. Yeah, do you happen to have a dog? Yes. Is your dog overweight? Yes. Is this genetics? You see, it's not just that we're passing on genes that perhaps give us a certain proclivity, that give us a certain predilection towards overweight, but we're also passing on from one generation to the next the recipes. And these are recipes that are becoming the common pathway. We should be very clear that obesity cannot be truly a genetically transmitted discomfort or illness. It cannot be, because it takes about 300 years to change the genetics in a society. 300 years. In America, we have seen the epidemic of obesity emerging in 30 years. This is not 300 years. This is not so much genetics, and that's good news, because it means we can do something about it, isn't it? It's
Right.
not in the DNA.
So it's the food.
It's the food. It's the
Absolutely.
food.
So, Dr. Diehl, a lot of people have medical conditions that say makes it very difficult, if not impossible, for them to lose weight. For example, thyroid conditions, or people that are on medication for diabetes that may even cause them to gain weight, or women that are experiencing menopause or perimenopause. What role does certain medical conditions play in our inability to lose weight?
When I talk to healthcare professionals, I always try to make it a point. I said, let us be careful not to be rushing into judgment too fast, because sometimes some of these people, there can be medications that are causing them to gain weight. For instance, in diabetes, almost all the medications, including the insulin, they're causing an increase in appetite. With that, you have an increase in calorie intake. And most of these diabetics, although they're already at risk of complications because of the obesity, with the medication, they're actually enhancing the obesity. They're gaining more and more weight as a result of the medication. So we have to be very, very careful not to rushing into judgment. And then you mentioned something about, I think you said,
Hypothyroidism and menopause.
okay. So there you have some hormonal changes in thyroid. This is the gland that sets it's the thermostat of the body. If this is underregulated, then the body no longer turns over these calories and they're building up in the body. And, if you have an under-functioning thyroid, there's not much you can do to really keep your weight down. You cannot. And so it's very, very important for a person that is gaining weight to first have a good checkup, to take a look at diabetes, to take a look at the thyroid function. And once that's taken care of, usually, and you make some of the adjustments that we're recommending in this program here, you should have no big problems with overweight anymore. But we need to be aware of this. I think many people that are overweight wished that they had a thyroid problem, because then they could blame it on this and they could take care of it. I think the major gland that is really causing the problem in the body is really the salivary gland.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard it
Yeah.
said that way.
But nevertheless, I think it's important to keep the thyroid function in mind, particularly for women.
Right. Did you notice it just seems so much harder for women to lose weight? Is there a hormonal aspect in this, or is it just that men are just lucky?
Well, I think it might have to do also with the idea that men usually have more muscle mass, and you can burn calories easier when you have more muscle mass. So, that probably would be one of the main reasons. There could also be some hormonal issues too. But in our program, we have 85,000 graduates in our CHIP program, which is really a program where we provide 35 hours of education to help people to understand how the body works, how nutrition works, to break out of this illiteracy of nutrition. And we find that women usually lose weight very consistently, usually 8-9 pounds in 4 or 5 weeks, 2 pounds a week, where men may have 2.5 pounds. And, there's always a little bit of an anger there. Why are the men losing weight? We want to lose the weight. So there is something there. It might be muscle mass, possibly, and maybe some other reasons.
I've never heard that term before, nutritional illiteracy. I love it. I mean, our country should be more worried about that right now than even, reading and writing. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's no longer part of our educational program, is it? We used
Not
to have
at all.
economics. No. If people today would lose or misplace their can opener, some of these people would starve to death.
Oh,
If that microwave oven wouldn't work anymore, they would actually go down the tubes. We're so dependent on these kind of gadgets because we have lost the ability to begin to zero in on what today amounts to only 14% of our calories: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans, and so on. These are the foods that are high in fiber. These are the foods that are high in nutritional value. These are foods that are very cheap. And these are foods that you adjust to taste-wise within 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's not a big
right.
issue. People say, well, if I would have to eat those foods for the rest of my lives, I might as well hang it up. No,
Wow.
no. Your taste buds change within 2 to 3 weeks. No problem. And you will love these foods. And you wonder how you ever had those banana splits. Seriously.
Right. Absolutely. And what's wonderful about the foods you mentioned, the foods as grown, the fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, you can eat as much of them as you want. I mean, assuming you're not adding oil and animal products to them, you don't have to weigh and measure your food on a plate or count your calories or your carbs. You really get to eat nature's bounty.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
It's the best. Well, you mentioned that men have a greater muscle mass. So how important is exercise to this whole process of weight loss and weight management?
Well, when it comes to exercise for weight loss, I think you want to possibly distinguish between aerobic exercise and basic exercise to maintain the body to be vibrant and flexible, right? And I think we should all do these kind of things. But to focus on losing weight with exercise, I'm not so sure. Now, I know that sounds like heresy, but let me explain it to you. You know, when we take in more calories than we expend, these calories are being saved usually in the central fat bank, right? And that central fat bank is oftentimes right in the midsection here. Men develop sort of a paunch. This is the fat bank, the central fat bank. And as the calories come in and we don't make enough withdrawals, we don't need enough exercise, guess what happens? The central fat bank begins to establish branch offices in different parts of your body. And then you get really worried about things because you know you have a family reunion coming up. You have a high school reunion coming up. You have to get ready for this. You feel embarrassed. What do? You fall into the hands of the merchants of misery because they promise you quick answers. In 7 days, you lose 10 pounds. And they do because they offer you a very monotonous diet. You know, maybe they have the grapefruit diet and all you eat is grapefruit and grapefruits and grapefruits and grapefruits. And I mean, you can hardly wait to get off it. And of course, you lose those 10 pounds and then you go back to the foods that you used to have. So then you say, well, those grapefruits didn't really work so well over long term. So now maybe you have some grapes. So now you have the grapes diet. You have the grapes and grapes and grapes and grapes. For 2 weeks, you eat grapes. And guess what? You lose 16 pounds. You say, wow, this is really working well. But I cannot wait to get off this crazy diet because it's built on the principle of monotony. And so you have your hopes up and you have your hopes dashed and you have your hopes up and you have your hopes dashed. Before you know it, you are a psychological wreck. And you say to yourself, there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with my glands. It sometimes can be, but it really is. And so what you begin to realize now is that you need to find a different way to solve your problem. You cannot solve long-term problems with quick fixes. And I always tell people, if you want to be successful in weight loss, then you have to let all diets die. Change your lifestyle. Begin to think in terms of what are your goals? Why do you want to lose weight? Are you just trying to please someone? Or are you going to do it for yourself? Why do you really want to lose weight? Do you have some special goals that you want to achieve? Do you want to see the grandkids growing up? Do you not want to see yourself in a nursing home someday? What are the real reasons? And then begin to focus on a comprehensive concept of lifestyling. Lifestyling is really the art of developing habits that you can live with for the rest of your life, not to change every 2-3 weeks with another diet. So I think these are very important things. Now, coming back to the question of exercise, right? Again, let me tell you a little story. I had these two middle-aged ladies coming to see me, and they said, we want to lose some weight. I said, what do you want to do? We want to lose 30 pounds. You want to change your diet? No. Oh, you don't want to change your diet? No. So what do you want to do? We want to exercise. Give us an exercise program. Now, I know, and you know, that for every mile that you walk, you burn about 100, 125 calories, right? So you can actually structure a very good weight loss program. For instance, these ladies, they said, okay, we want to walk about 2 miles a day. So that's about They said 45 minutes. We're slow walkers. We're in our 60s. We don't want to overdo it. Okay. So that means you'll be, and I gave them a program. I said, why don't you walk from the medical center to Stater Brothers? That's a big store there. That's about 1.1 mile. And you go back and forth one time. That's 2.2 miles. That means you will be burning 250 calories, right? So 250 calories that you're burning every day. So we figured out that in 60 weeks, that's 1 year, they would have lost 30 pounds. Because you can calculate it very, very nicely. So I said, I'd like you to do this program together. So there's accountability there, right? I want you to have some fun, do it together, and find the time that is most suitable to you, and just do it every day. They come back after 3 months, and they said, Dr. Diehl, sorry, your program doesn't work. I beg your pardon? Your program does not work. We have gained 4 pounds. I said, did you change your diet? No. Are you on some medication? No. Have you walked every day from the medical center to the Stater Brothers store, back and forth, one time, once a day? Well, we've done it 6 times a week. I said, that's fine. You've done it. Proud of you. Then I thought to myself, that cannot be. There's something wrong here. So I asked them one more time. I said, let me see if I got this right. You walked from the medical center to the Stater Brothers store. Oh. And then you turned around. Oh, no. We went inside. Well, what do you do inside? Oh, we rewarded ourselves. I mean, we have been so good. I mean, we walked that 1.1 mile. We've done it day after day. We have found sort of a nice way that we reward ourselves. We go inside, we get ourselves a Krispy Kreme donut, and we feel so good. And then we go home. We're happy troopers. I said, so you burned 225 calories going back and forth, right? With exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a Krispy Kreme donut, which is over 400 calories. So every time you do your exercise, you're actually taking in a net of so many hundred calories. Of course you would gain weight.
Oh,
and I said to one of the ladies, I said, tell me, it gives you pleasure, doesn't it? Oh, yes. I said, how long does the pleasure last? Well, about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
But I said, is it really worth it? Oh, she said, yes, doctor, it really is. And I said, what about your weight program? They never figured that out.
Wow.
You have to think in terms of you're burning calories through exercise, but you're taking them back in by unwisely eating. So many people have this idea that if they just exercise more, everything is going to be fine. They've seen the television program, that big, what is it, The Biggest Loser?
Biggest Loser, yeah.
They don't realize that these people exercise 10, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
They're going to win this special award, right? But we don't have that time. Can you imagine if you wanted to burn those extra calories that you've just taken in with the Krispy Kreme donut, those 425 calories? You would have to walk 4 miles. That means you have to walk 1 hour and 15 minutes to burn the calories of one donut. Is it really worth it?
Nope.
I always tell people, exercise is part of a good program, but don't do it to lose weight. Okay? Oh, I know it increases the metabolic rate and there are all kinds of benefits, but it's a minimal benefit that you get. It's better to let go of that donut and replace it with something that you can really live with and enjoy.
Absolutely. As many of our experts have said, you can't outrun your mouth. So terrific.
Good.
But one of the things you said in that story that I thought was interesting is that you asked her to walk with a friend for accountability. And you have this wonderful CHIP program with 85,000 graduates. There was a group of people that were accountable to each other. Do you think that support and accountability is important when one is undertaking a weight loss journey?
You know, Chef AJ, when I was younger, I had this very simple notion. If doctors, physicians would only spend time with the patient and educate them, everything would be falling into place. So I thought, I'm going to show my medical colleagues how to do it. And I chose some patients, overweight patients. I saw them every week for 1 hour. I showed them my charts. I showed them my PowerPoints. Sometimes I even prayed for them if it was appropriate. I did everything I could. I was a total failure. And so my wife said to me, well, are you charging these people? No. Oh, well, they have no skin in the game. Why should they make those changes? I said, I don't know if it's that. And so we thought about this. And then I talked to some psychologists, and they said, have you ever thought of the power of a group? I said, you were not successful because it was one-on-one. Probably people, even though you may have done your best to explain things to them, there was no one there to really support them. There was no one there to provide an accountability structure. But in a group, it's different. In a group, you develop hope. You hear success stories, and you say to yourself, my, if she can do it, maybe I can. You have people that were at the 300 pounds, and all of a sudden, after a year of being in a group process, they're down to 198, and you say, wow, maybe I can do it too. And you hear these success stories, you help each other, you exchange telephone numbers, you say, can I call you if I'm in trouble? When I have a weak moment? Yes. So the phone rings, and it's one of your buddies. And the woman says, I don't know what to do. I have my hand in the cookie jar right now. Can you help me? What is the woman going to tell her? You know what she's going to say? Embrace the cookie and put it slowly to your mouth and eat it, but then seal the jar. Do you see? That's wise counsel. You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to be perfect from day one. No, it doesn't work that way. You're developing habit patterns. You do it step by step by step, and you get stronger every time. When you have a friend, when you have a partner, it makes all the difference. So I think doing these kind of behavioral change programs in groups seems to be a very, very wise way to do it. That's what we have found with 85,000 graduates.
Yeah, terrific. What would you say to somebody, though, that's given up hope that they could ever lose weight?
Well, when they come into the group, they'll hear the stories there.
Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely.
Because, I mean, I can preach at people, it doesn't do anything. The most important ingredient, I tell some of my professional colleagues, the most ingredient element in being successful in helping people with weight loss has to do with letting them realize that you are deeply caring for them.
Mm-hmm.
You're deeply committed to them. You are not expecting miracles. You are not expecting changes all at once, but you are there. And if you can bring them into a group, that's the way to go.
I agree.
Group is magic. Group is magic.
I agree.
Especially if you, as a facilitator, you can instill this sensitivity towards friendship, caring, hope, optimism. You can, and then you have the applause, right? I mean, they go home, they are on cloud nine because they have no support structure at home sometimes. They're all by themselves. And they say, well, can I really make it through the day? Yes, they can, because they're looking forward to those once or twice or 3 times a week meetings that we do in the CHIP program.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Diehl, because I created a group and I'm seeing the same kind of results. And I always tell people, even if my group doesn't resonate with you, find one that does, because if you could have done this alone, you would have already. So we're on the same page.
So, we have been very, very happy to see how people consistently, I mean, we got 85,000 graduates in the CHIP, the Complete Health Improvement Program. We have seen these people over time to go into the alumni chapters, to have monthly meetings, as you know, to reinforce, because we all have these weak moments. We all have a tendency sometimes to fall back into the old patterns, but there's always the undergirding support from the group there.
Great. Well, you've told us what caused the problem, and you seem to be pretty confident there's a solution. So, what is it, Dr. Diehl? What is the real truth about weight loss? What do we need to do?
Well, we have sort of boiled it down to 5 basic major principles. Principle number 1 is to try to move towards plant-based foods. Okay. Be careful, with animal products, because animal products are very high in fat. So it's number 1. Number 2, be also careful with engineered foods, with processed foods. Eat more foods as grown. Eat more fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes, some of these kind of foods as they come in nature. So it's principle number 2. Number 3, we are trying to recommend to our people, eat all you want. I mean, these people think they're falling off their chair. I mean, I don't have to push away from the table. No. If you eat the right foods, you can eat all you want. Fill up the stomach, and the stomach will tell you when it's full because the signal goes to the brain. I am full because of the fiber. That's magical. We covered that, didn't we?
Right.
So eat more foods as well. I mean, that's what you are recommending, unprocessed food. You can eat as much as you want. You cannot overeat calorically because the stomach only holds about 4 cups of food.
Right.
There's a lot of roughage and fiber there. There. That's number 3. So again, number 1, cut back on animal products. Number 2, cut back on refined foods, processed foods, engineered foods. And number 3, eat more foods as grown so that you get the nutrition, you get the fiber, you get all the good things that are there. There are over 100,000 micronutrients in food that the body loves to have. And it's almost exclusively found in plant foods. So these are then the 3 principles. Number 4, get into an exercise program, exercise not to lose weight per se, but just to feel great about life, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And then number 5, we usually recommend to people, be aware that if you had some adverse childhood experiences, if you have gone through some very stressful episodes, sometimes in new marriages, there's abuse of all kinds there. Try to deal with this. And the best way to do this is don't start worrying about the food. Don't even come to the CHIP program if you're in that situation. You're 355 pounds. Don't come to us. Go through a psychological group process where you have a professional counselor that can help you to let go of this anger and the abuse that you suffered, something that is still there, even though it's 30, 40 years ago. The perpetrator perhaps has died already, and yet you're still carrying this anger towards him. And they will tell you, well, what you need to do is perhaps write a letter to him. He's gone. Well, write a letter anyway, and then burn it, but you have taken care of it. Once you've taken care of these kind of underlying traumatic experiences, then begin to embrace the academic, the pedagogical, the educational concepts that we talked about, and enjoy the socialization with people that are united trying to solve a problem that can be solved. And as a matter of fact, what I found is that when you tell people that are overweight, we want you to have the success formula, and that is, if you're going to lose weight, eat more. What are the right foods?
Right.
The problem in our society today when it comes to overweight is in the fact that we have concentrated calories that are promoted right and left, and we overlook the idea that if you really want to lose weight, eat more food. Don't be in a semi-starvation mode all the time, having hunger pangs. No, eat, but eat the foods such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, the foods that are being recommended by some of the medical bodies everywhere.
Absolutely.
You've done this. I've done this. We've done it with 85,000 people. The results are consistent. They will lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. And
Right.
they come out smiling, new people.
Dr. Diehl, you said 85,000 graduates. I'm sure You have so many success stories, but is there one that maybe sticks out in your mind, some inspiring story that you could share with us of transformation and hope?
Hmm. Well, I had a lady that was 110 pounds in excess. And she said, I have gone through so much trauma. I just don't think I can ever do it. And she did. She became involved in the CHIP program. She became a leader in the CHIP program. She found fulfillment there. And gradually, step by step by step, she lost the weight. And then I recognized I had to set some goals for her because she had run out of her goals. And I said to her, you know, if you feel comfortable to lose a certain amount of weight, I will feature you at a national wellness conference and you can talk about the emotional aspects of losing weight. She said, I can't do this. I mean, you think I could? I said, yes. She called me up about 2 weeks before and she said, I'm just about at the weight that we had agreed upon. I feel so good. I can hardly wait to do it. She did. She became a winner. And then the next thing I did, I said, can I set maybe another goal with you? What would be the next goal? How many pounds do you want to lose in the next 4 months? She thought about it. She said, my wife Lily and I would like to invite you to come to Southern California. She lived on the East Coast, wintertime, right? I said, we'll fly you to Loma Linda, to Southern California, and we have you experience sort of springtime in December, Christmas with us, and we would be delighted to have you with us. Guess what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she fell short about 2 pounds, but it didn't make any difference. She was a winner, and she recognized that we were deeply caring about her, and that's what people need to know. They need to know that they can change, and we believe in them. And as they believe in themselves, they can do whatever they want to do.
Wow. If the prize was Christmas with the Deals in Loma Linda, I think we'd have a lot more people losing weight. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Diehl. You're just delightful. Thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much. Thank you.